can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around. Another weekend in some hockey town. With a pucked up parents, frozen toes, big hearts, bad luck. With a pucked up parents, one more tourney, one more puck. We're broke, we're loud, we love this grind. Cause our kid just scored and we lost our minds.
Greetings and welcome to Puck Up Parents. We are at episode number 27. I don't have a joke for 27 today, so shame on me. My name is Michael. I've been a pucked up parent for 12 years. Angela and I are novice, first generation hockey parents in a non-traditional hockey town and state for that matter, sharing everything we have learned over the last dozen years through our experiences with our two sons in hockey. We are located in Kentucky, not exactly a hockey hotbed per se. The closest NHL teams to us are the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Nashville Predators, with Nashville being one of the newer franchises out there, as well as Columbus. Of course, they didn't exist when we were kids. As you can probably tell, this week, Angela is not here today. She's not with us right now. She's actually out on the road traveling. Now, normally when Angela travels, we just Zoom the call from her hotel room. She does travel a lot for work, but in this instance, her and our 12-year-old went on a camping trip down to the middle of Kentucky, I think Red River Gorge. So no Zoom, no internet, just the open stars and probably sleeping on the ground. Michael doesn't camp. I don't camp. I don't like camping. I like hotel rooms. I like internet. I like air conditioner. I like heat. I like a comfy room. No, thank you to sleeping in a tent that has material as thick as my parachute pants. With that said, you're getting me today, and only me, because I procrastinated, didn't invite anybody to interview, didn't invite any fellow hockey parents. Just going to knock out an episode real quick for you guys. Have a little one-on-one time with me and share some experiences. So if I don't come with facts like Angela normally does, I apologize. Usually I just bring at least I try to bring it, some humor and some stories to each one of our topics each week. So today it's 100% Michael for entire episode 27. First things first, as we do every week, what happened last week in hockey? And for us, really nothing. Of course, our son's playing in a beer league, rec league, and they actually had a bye week this week. So the big Cheddar Elite or whatever they're called, Cheddar Elite, that's what they're called. The Cheddar Elite had a bye this week, no games, but they're still undefeated. Of course, we still continue. It's the end of school year, so we're continuing to go to those graduation parties. A few more hockey friends graduated, had their parties. We went to one. They had a beautiful bunch of setups honoring their son's hockey career, which I thought was awesome. Took some notes. Our party is at the end of June, so it's pretty good to get some insight into the graduation parties firsthand and see what went right and what went wrong. I'll share a secret. Well, not a secret. I'll share a topic. We've been looking to cater the party, of course, and we decided barbecue. Barbecue's easy. We just we'll have it catered with some barbecue, hit up some local restaurants. And can I tell you, we went to 3 graduation parties over the weekend, and every one of them served barbecue. It was good, but a little overkill. Our 12U on the third party kind of looked at us. He's like, barbecue again. So Angela and I are going to pull an audible and maybe do a taco bar at our party. And along with that, our son graduated last night. We went to the graduation ceremony. He walked across the stage, and I got to say there was a wink and a nod to hockey because he did do kind of a celly. I've seen him do on the ice as he walked up to get his diploma. Very, very cool experience to see your son walk across the stage, get his diploma, and ready to move on to the next big thing, which is of course, college. And of course, we're going to be sharing college hockey stories as he makes, hopefully, I mean, he's made a team, but whichever division he makes, as he joins the University of Louisville Cardinals, be it a ACHA Division One or Division Two team. Our youngest, he's ramping up his lacrosse training, so not hockey related, but still, kind of keeping those skills up. His big brother has offered to help train him. He's looking to play lacrosse next season, so yay us. Maybe we need to start a new lacrosse podcast. But, we get a lot of those hockey pucks into the garage, making dents, breaking lights, making me stress around my classic vehicles. And these lacrosse balls, they are super dense. Looks like they do as much damage as a hockey puck. All right, as we do every week, recap of last week's episode, we talked about rinks, everything rinks. We went from your shanties, your barns, all the way up to the NHL practice rinks, which are the glorious mecca of hockey rinks. Now, if you tuned in and you listened to that episode, and on your Spotify, on your Apple, I always put a photo kind of relating to whatever topic we have. I try not to do AI photos. I think they're trash. So I do realistic photos or real photos. That's a real picture of our Northern Kentucky Ice Center barn. That's the exterior of it. If you've ever had the chance to visit there or you're a parent at that rink, yes, that that's our rink on the cover page. We love our local rink. We love the family that runs it, and it's given us so much over the course of our lives. It's of course where we started our hockey journey, and it's where our son ended his, at least regionally, up here when he played for the varsity team. So, anyway, as we kick into today's episode, what are we going to talk about? It's just me. There's no Angela. So, if Michael gets a free for all, do I talk about how much I hate cowbells? Do I talk about how bad all these hockey parents park at parking lots at hockey rinks? No. I think today what we're going to talk about are hockey dads. And what's more appropriate than me talking about hockey dads when I am one? Let's get into it. What the puck am I doing? Now, I talk about hockey dads. I like to consider myself the anti-hockey dad. And I'll get into the reasons why. Clearly, if you listen to the show with any regularity, you know that I say I'm not a sports parent. Let's be honest. I am a sports parent. I've been in hockey for 12 years, but my background doesn't facilitate any of that. What am I talking about when I talk about my background? We're going to dive a little bit into my history. Sorry, sorry if it's boring or I've talked about it in the past, but just kind of a journey to how I consider myself the anti-sports dad or the anti-hockey dad, and where I see myself now versus where I saw myself 12 years ago when my oldest started playing hockey. So my background in sports, personally, I grew up in the middle of Kentucky, the middle of nowhere, in Nelson County. If you drink hockey dads, if you're listening, if you drink bourbon, actually that's kind of sexist. I'm sorry, hockey moms. If you drink bourbon, Maker's Mark, Jim Beam. I grew up around those, so those are out in the middle of farmlands, the middle of Kentucky, where they distill those and they put them in the big bourbon warehouses. That's where I grew up. I grew up in essentially bourbon country, Nelson County, Kentucky, and grew up working on my dad's farm, helping out there. I didn't live on a farm, but my dad owned a couple farms, so I was putting up hay, feeding cattle, planting tobacco. Tobacco was still a thing back in the 80s. Of course, it's certainly died out to then. But as far as sports were involved, I grew up in a small town of 300, so there wasn't a lot of sports facilities around. We had the ball fields, just like every town, every small town, every large town has ball fields. We had a ball field, and the year I was old enough to start playing right after T-ball, they got rid of baseball. The town where I grew up in got rid of Little League baseball. They switched to softball. Softball was all the rage in the early '80s. For some reason, where I grew up, maybe it was statewide. I don't know. We started playing softball, so I signed up to play softball. And to be honest, I was pretty bad. I was the kid who was behind home plate. That's how crappy I am. I was the catcher. I also played right field, and if you know anything about softball, little kid softball, they always put the terrible players as catcher or in right field. There was no nepotism involved in my league because my uncle Guy, I've talked about him before, he was my coach, and man, he liked to he liked to yell at me a lot. You're terrible, you suck. Get the GD ball. I love him, love the guy. No pun intended, his name was Guy, but I loved him, and I played softball over the course, all the way up to high school. I got better. I could hit, even to the point where I was ambidextrous. I could hit from both sides of the plate, but baseball wasn't there. Football, there were no little kid league footballs where I grew up. Of course, we had the county high school football team once I got to high school, but I was tall, skinny, all the way up to freshman year. I wore glasses. So if anybody knows the '80s and you wore glasses in the '80s, you were considered a nerd, which I guess you can say I kind of was. I was a big bookworm, made good grades, and just wasn't athletic. I was tall. I sucked. I was terrible at basketball. Much like every kid growing up. I had a basketball goal in the backyard. It was just recreation, is all. But a lot of my stuff involved small town life. Working on a farm. I hunted briefly. I didn't like killing animals. Let's be honest. I did hunt deer and rabbits and squirrels, but it just never clicked for me. I've talked about it numerous times and mentioned that I am a firefighter, and that came out of sheer boredom. I was working at Uncle Guy again, Coach Uncle Guy. Coach Uncle Guy had a hardware store, and I worked there as a delivery boy and a stock boy. So Across the street was the fire department, and the fire department guys would always come in. It was a small town fire department, your volunteers, and the guys kind of talked me into to join in just to fill some time, just to do something. I was I did have an athletic body per se because again, I worked at a hardware store, so I was throwing lumber, throwing shingles, bags of concrete. So I was defined. I had some muscles. Firefighting came naturally. I was really good at it. I enjoyed doing it. The dynamic of high school athletes versus me as a firefighter, because I was a firefighter at 17. Now, granted, I couldn't do much until I was 18. But you would have like Johnny Football. He's the hero because he scored a touchdown. Meanwhile, I was, working car wreck scenes, helping out the guys with equipment and stuff like that. So that's why I was always like the non-sports eye roll, the jocks, the sports dads, because I came up different with all of this background. Briefly, my parents, my mom played no sports. My sisters, both sisters played softball. One played a bit of collegiate softball. They were really, really good. I take nothing away from them at all. Really good softball players, district, state championships. Both were pitchers. My dad, he was a high school wrestler. I didn't find out he was a high school wrestler till I was like, I don't know, 38. He finally shared the story. He also played basketball. And a matter of fact, I'm broadcasting this. I have his letter jacket hung up behind me, framed and hung up behind me. But once he became a father, or well, I don't know, well, I came along and he realized how terrible I was at sport. He just he just didn't care about sports. He didn't follow major sports programs on TV. He wasn't rooting for any teams. It was always work, go to the farm, hunt, the kind of the country living as opposed to following guys on the TV set, which again, I was fine with. I had a lot of uncles. My dad is one of 16. I had 10 uncles. My dad's one of 16, and my uncles were Major League Baseball fans. They liked the Reds. They were all LA Raider fans. It was LA Raiders NFL at the time, but zero hockey in the Mauser family whatsoever. Now, contrast that with Angela, who grew up more in a city suburb of Louisville. Her dad he was really athletic, played a lot of ball. Football was big around him. Angela's an only child, so you can tell that her dad trained her to be an athlete. She got into gymnastics. Of course, she got into softball. She played as a walk-on with Auburn University. And when we met, we bonded over or playing just rec league softball. But that's the background of Angela versus me, and why over the course of these last 27 episodes, I always consider myself not really a sports dad. And part of that is because I just didn't have the background, and no fault of my parents whatsoever. I loved my childhood. I don't regret anything. Some sports just they weren't there to be introduced to me. They didn't exist where I lived. Football didn't exist. Certainly, the nearest ice hockey rink was I got to think 50 miles away in Louisville, Kentucky. So it wasn't there. Anyway, fast forward. We moved to Metro Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky. There's a rink 2 miles from our house. And just on a whim, one night we were bored sitting at home with Sam, and he was 5 years old. And I'm like, let's go down there and skate at the ice rink. And 12 years later, or excuse me, I would say we're probably 13, getting close to 13 years. 13 years later, we are at where we are today. That's the background of how I became the anti-hockey, hockey dad, sports dad. Let's get into how I define those. So, are we there yet? Rinks and road trips. Let's talk about the prototypical sports dad or hockey dad. And you can't see me, I'm making air quotes. It was quite the culture shock when Sam started playing hockey for me. I'd never spent any amount of time in a hockey rink. I'd certainly never spent any time around any sports parents. Sam played some baseball. It didn't click. He was just bored. Hell, I was bored. Soccer wasn't there. We had the local leagues, but he just really never was passionate about anything. And again, once he got on the hockey rink, the passion was there. His attention was there, and he was having fun. So we pushed for. I mean, we didn't push for it, we progressed with that, and we knew that this was the path that he was gonna take. Now, we always offered, "Do you wanna play the sports? Do you wanna play soccer? Do you wanna play baseball?" And eventually, he was just, "I'm 100% hockey." Again, back to the rink, we're at the rink, and I'm meeting hockey dads. I'm gonna describe my typical, I don't say rose-colored glasses, but my view of a hockey dad, and that hockey dad is he's standing on the glass. He's got a hat on backwards, and that hat is probably an NHL Boston Bruins hat. I don't know, but any NHL team. Also rocking the team gear, and he's not wearing like the T-shirt, the T-shirt that your local league sell. He has the jumpsuit, the expensive jumpsuit, full on gear. He's probably yelling, he's probably banging on the glass, and he's talking with the other dads about nothing but hockey, be it in the lobby or up against the glass. "My kid, my kid, my kid." Now, there's nothing wrong with any of this. Again, all this is my opinion, just I say outsider looking in, I've been in it for 12 years. This is my opinion and my view of it. I have some hockey dads that are really close friends of mine, but then some I kind of stay away from just for the reason that they're a little too aggressive and assertive, especially when it comes to games for my liking. Now, I equate these diehard dads to, I always use movies as examples for this podcast. I think of the dad from Varsity Blues. God, that guy was such an ass. If you remember, he was like putting the beer can on his head and he made James Vanderbeek, rest in peace, buddy. He made James Vanderbeek throw the football in, and James Vanderbeek was having none of it and chunked the football right at his face, broke his nose. And then the other sports dad, the Lance Harbor's dad, he was living his life through Lance Harbor. Lance was headed to Florida State, no concern about his knee, just like, oh my God, the scholarship goes to Florida State, which now that I look at college, I can understand his anger because man, that's a lot of money lost. I also think of like real pop culture parents who push their kids hard, specifically like the Jackson Five. The Michael movie just came out, and you hear these awful stories about Joe Jackson making his kids practice 24 hours a day while the other kids are playing outside there in Gary, Indiana. And I'd seen it firsthand at high school football games as a teenager, and even through some softball, which was really odd. But these dads that were just really aggressive with their kids, thinking I don't want to say thinking, really aggressive with their kids. Obviously, they want them to succeed. They want them to get better, but these dreams, these pipe dreams of them making the majors and just pushing these poor kids to the brink of hating the sport that they're there to play. So I knew when I became a a sports dad that I would not really do that. I would kind of be there more, of course, as a father, but as a guidance counselor to my child to help them make decisions along the way. Of course, in partnership with Angela, who had more sports background, very good at investigating stuff, but more of a consult role, and then also to play kind of Angela's sports assertiveness versus my laid back. Okay, let's fill things out. Let's study this first, as opposed to let's dive right into it. I'm not saying Angela dives into things, but I am saying that I'm kind of the let's talk about missing 4 days of school academics versus playing in a tournament that you're going to get your ass handed to for a team you don't care about. So I was always kind of that balance of I think academics are more important. The anti-hockey dad, which I do consider myself, is the opposite of the hockey dad. Now, this is probably going to describe myself, may describe some of you, and maybe describe some of you hockey moms. You can probably take out dad and plop in mom because there's moms that are fit both these categories. Personally, myself, when I go to the rink, I drop the kids off at the hour ahead of time. I'll go run errands. I'm not sitting in the rink, probably not chatting it up everybody. It's not because I'm not friendly. I don't like them. It's just because I like a little peace and quiet. I like to explore the towns that I'm in. And when I get to the rink, I'm probably going to sit down and read a book. I like to read books. Again, I talked about being a nerd back in the '80s. It certainly carried over to my adulthood because I do read a lot of books. So I am the guy at the rink in between games or downtime. I'm pulling out a Kindle or a paper novel to read. If you have any questions on any good books, I can certainly give them to you. Hail Mary. I know the movie's out, but the book is incredible. I'm also the dad who, and I found myself early on watching the hockey practices. Of course, you're gonna watch a hockey practice if your kid's like 5 or 6 years old, just to make sure they're safe and just to see how they operate. But once they get more independent, and especially when the coaches start coaching more in a structured format as opposed to the chaos of mites and even to the point squirts, I kind of dipped out and did my own thing. And we covered this in one of the episodes. I would go to the gym. I would start to go for a run. I do like to keep in tip top shape. I'm in my late 40s. I'm still doing the firefighting thing, so I got to stay in shape. So I do work out in between games and even during practices. So I'm not the dad sitting in the stands watching the practices, and I've seen it. I walk in, I'm done with my run, and there's the dads up against the glass screaming at their kids, or the hockey dads just sitting there watching and then talking about their kids' training, talking about their upcoming events, talking about the travel, talking about what they're going to do for the summer, where the kids going to go play for the summer, where the kids going to play for the spring, how they're going to promote them to AAA, how their kids going to make it to the NHL, how their kids going to hoist the Stanley Cup, how they're going to make it to the Hall of Fame, how they're going to thank their dad for this practice because now they're in the Hall of Fame NHL. But I'm just not that parent. And I've asked my kids before. I've seen these dads, and I'm like, "Am I not?" I mean, of course, kids are gonna tell you no, but I'm always like, "Do you want me to be more assertive? Do you want me to be like this dad or this dad?" And the answer's always been no. And I think the success of our kids resonates as a direct result of the way Angela and I hopefully parented these boys as they've done their sports journey to where we're not hands off, but we are there when they need us. And I think that's the best way to be. Also, with the anti-ice hockey parent, or excuse me, anti-hockey dad as myself, I'm less likely to be confrontational. It's not because I'm a coward. It's not because I don't care. I just let the coach do his thing. If the coach isn't angry that my kid got a bad call, should I be? The coach saw it just as plainly as I did. Is the coach giving fair playing time? Now, that's not to say that there hasn't been times where I have pulled the coach aside to express some concerns. And I'll share two stories. Number one, Henry, who's our 12-year-old right now, when he first started out, he played in a league and he was getting bullied. Now, Henry started very early at hockey, so he was training at like 4, and a couple of kids, 6-year-olds, just being 6-year-olds, but he was getting shoved down every week constantly. Henry was small for his age at 4 even, and these bigger 6-year-olds were shoving him down. And the coach was seeing it, but he wasn't doing anything about it. And I was getting just week by week, I saw it continually happen and nothing was going on. And my fear was that by him getting bullied on the ice, it was gonna destroy his love of hockey at a young age, and I didn't want that to happen. I did what every dad would do. I wrote an email, which is very non-confrontational, I know. I mean, I can go up face to face, but I figured an email would be more diplomatic, and I wouldn't say anything off the cuff. I basically laid it out like, "Hey, man, listen, you guys do this drill every week. There's a group of 6-year-old boys. They're shoving him to the ground constantly. I'm afraid it's going to destroy his love of the game. Now, I understand kids will be kids, 6-year-olds will be 6-year-olds. There's going to be some shoving, there's going to be some pushing, but this is just straight up bullying based on the pattern of it every week. I even put a threat at the bottom, and the threat wasn't me. Sam was like, I don't know, 12 at the time. I said, look, if you don't take care of this, I'm going to put my 12-year-old in skates and I'm going to put him out there to take care of these 6-year-olds. So the next week, it was resolved. So that's confrontation number one. Number two, Henry made a team that was it was a summer traveling team, and it was right when squirts got way more organized and they were playing positioning and everything. And Henry was defense, only played defense, only knew defense, just played defense. So he joined this team that he had never played before, and they put him in offense. I'm watching the game, the first period, they put him in offense, and he is lost. He's not playing worth a crap. We're in Pittsburgh, mind you. We had traveled from Northern Kentucky to Pittsburgh for this tournament to help out this summer team. And after about 5 minutes of the game, they put Henry on the bench, and he doesn't see another minute the rest of the game. Now, I was a little bit angry, but I was also like, "Why are they putting him in in offense? He doesn't play offense." And I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, "Look, if he's not gonna play." I think it was a 4-game certainty tournament where they were guaranteed to play 4 games, and I pulled the coach aside and I said, "Hey, man, I get it. He did terrible at offense, but just FYI, he doesn't know how to play offense. He plays defense. His big brother plays defense. He learned how to play defense." And I said, "If you plan on playing him at offense and leaving him on the bench like that, there's no reason for us to be here." And it wasn't malicious, and I wasn't being angry. I was just basically saying, "Hey, man, I'm not gonna sit in Pittsburgh for 3 days while my kid rides the bench the entire game. We have better things that we could be doing." So the next game, the coach switches Henry to defense like he should have in the first place. And granted, the coach didn't know anything about Henry, and shame on me, I guess, for not telling him what position he plays. But the next game, the coach switched him to defense, and Henry excelled, did amazing. And after the game, the coach made it a point to pull me aside and say, "Hey, man, thanks for that tip. He played incredible. He will never play offense again, and he's going to get some playing time." So it all worked out at the end. Those are the 2 times I can only remember stepping in as a hockey dad. Now, as far as confrontation with parents, I hate that. I see this a lot. You see this everywhere. There was one on the internet like this week where a dude was like climbing the glass and banging on it, and these parents are all yelling. I hate that. I hate it. If you're a parent who is confrontational at a game, you talk. I understand it's passionate. I understand tempers flare. I get all of that. But why? What are you going to solve in the end? If there's a parent from, I'm not picking on any teams, let's say Chicago, and we're playing Chicago, and some parents arguing or yelling about it, and I'm yelling back. At the end of the day, who wins? Besides the team on the ice that has the most points, but out of the parents, who wins? Are you going to change their mind about your team? Are they going to change your mind about their team? Probably not. There's no win for any parent to argue with another parent. Now, I get it. Again, temperatures are high. You don't want parents threatening other kids. Like if, for example, the parent from Chicago is saying, take out number 2, and number 2 is my son. That's a little questionable. But again, I don't think the kids can hear it. It's just parents being parents and asshole parents being asshole parents. And you're nothing you can say, nothing you can argue, nothing you could do is going to change their mind or shut them up. So the best course for me, call me a coward, call me shrinking away, is to just relocate. Or in the instance of an annoying parent, I'll slip in some earbuds and turn on some music because my patience is thin at this age, and especially 12 years into hockey, where I'll just tune it out. I'm there to watch my kid play. If asshole dad from Chicago wants to scream, yell, beat the glass, curse, belittle our team, he's only making himself look like an ass, and I don't need to hear it, so I'm gonna pop in the earbuds. That's my best advice to you as a hockey parent, hockey mom, or hockey dad. Tune it out. Don't engage, and don't be confrontational because nobody wins. Same way with the refs. These poor refs. I can't imagine it's a lucrative business. I can't imagine getting paid a lot. I imagine it's a thankless job. I mean, they offer handshakes in the games, at least from some kids. But at the end of the day, they're not going to overturn that call because number two's dad's in the stands saying that he didn't trip the kid. They're not going to turn it over. You're only going to get yourself tossed out of the game or a target on your kid's back. So sit back, shut up, bite your tongue, and enjoy the game. Angela might have different opinions. I'm sure all of you have different opinions. This is just my opinion. It's my podcast. I'll say what I want. It's my episode. I'll say what I want. Now, I talked about how I progressed over the years. I think when my son started out, again, 12 years ago, as far as being a hockey dad, I did see some light there. I was kind of that dad was like, maybe this is going to be lucrative. Maybe he can make the NHL. But as I settled into it, did research, of course, Angela and I both did research, talked to coaches, the reality set in. All roads lead to beer league. We said that again. Now, even going to college to me is a bonus. It's not to say you don't encourage your kids and you don't hope for the best. And, obviously, who knows if they make it to the NHL or not? Anything's possible. But being realistic is probably the best approach to it. If you're a parent starting out, if you're a dad starting out or a mom starting out, don't get caught up in all of the emails and everything about the AAA. We've talked about this before. The exclusive camps because everything comes with a price, and you're going to find out that some of these, although they may be exclusive and they may be what they actually try to sell, but 9 times out of 10, a lot of them are just kinda shakedowns for money. You get up there and you're playing teams out of Canada, you paid $1,000 and you're getting your ass kicked because everybody on the team is people who can afford it and not really the talent that you were expecting. I know there are teams out there that are AAA that are absolutely amazing, don't get me wrong, but we've always said, and this is a famous internet thing coming since 2020, do your research. Do your research, and the best people to voice their opinions on this is other parents who have experiences with certain camps, other parents who have experiences with other tournaments, or other parents that have experiences with these hockey programs that you get 10 emails a week. And again, as I progress from a brand new parent to where we are today, I think Angela was a huge vital point in guiding not only our son on our journey to where he went, but also me. She did all the research. And we've talked about it before. She's better with the coaches than I am. I'm always the one throwing the thumb at the coach saying, talk to her. I'm not the right one to talk about. Now, I was in the background doing the research as well, reading up, seeing what it is. And collectively, Angela and I kind of steered both of our kids' careers to the local mom and pop Northern Kentucky rink up to Cincinnati to play a little more talent. And again, it wasn't our decision. It was coaches saying, "Hey, maybe you should go somewhere else and get them more experience, get them playing some better talent." And then ultimately, with our senior, who's now graduated, I should say, he graduated last night. It was our decision based on the folding of a couple organizations to just let him finish his high school career at the back at the home rink. Sure, playing league play in Kentucky is not league play in Minneapolis or playing AAA in Cincinnati, traveling up to Michigan, but he had a blast. He was with his friends, and he loved every minute of it, and it paid dividends. Like, we were playing the Kentucky League, but we still had a toe in that AA, AAA world in that we took him to a couple showcases to show his talent to college coaches, and, it actually paid off. We are making that journey to college later on. He did get some college offers from other ACHA teams. We knew he wasn't gonna be NCAA material, but we figured he could make ACHA, and we figured he could make ACHA Division 1 or Division 2 without needing the juniors program. And I think a lot of that was me too as well, although Angela would probably attest that she was on the same boat in that, to me, the juniors, which is your post high school hockey where you pay to play somewhere else and hopefully get noticed by a college team. That was never going to be in a play for our kid. And I expressed as much repeatedly. And Angela was on board. To me, again, academics were number one, hockey would be number two. And luckily, his talent was good enough to get him noticed by the college teams and to actually be lock loaded for an ACHA team when he stepped foot in the college of his choice. So everything worked out in the end. Now, different programs work for different kids. This was just our experiences. We never wanted to do juniors, and the juniors primarily because the way I looked at it, that money I was going to spend for juniors, that can go towards college tuition. Because again, unless my kid is going to play for the USA Olympic hockey team or go to the NHL, all roads lead to beer leagues. Ideally, he needs to find a job and a career, and he can play hockey if he wants to recreationally. But again, everything worked out. We're gonna ride that college, ACHA division hockey side by side. We skipped the juniors program. Yay us. We saved a little bit of money. So that's kind of a hockey journey. It's high level, my opinion of the hockey dad, the sports dad versus the anti-hockey dad, the anti-sports dad, which I think I am. And I wear that badge proudly. And anybody who's ever met me at a rink or knows me, from the coaches down to the parents, they know how I am. They know that I don't wanna say I don't sweat the sport, but it's not life and death. I just wanna see my boys happy. I wanna see them have fun on the ice. I wanna see them engage with friends. I wanna see them skate. I love watching the boys skate. I love watching them skate before on the warm-ups. I love watching them on the ice, and I love seeing them succeed on their own without dad out there. Of course, dad can't skate, but I love seeing them succeed, and honestly, I've got so many pulled videos of live barn and parent videos on my phone, and when I'm having a crappy day at work, I pull up one of those videos just to watch. There's my kid scoring the game winner. There's my son getting his trophy presentation for the state. There's my son making an amazing hit on a player. So it that brings me joy, and that brings me joy as a sports dad. And I think that's my biggest takeaway is enjoy watching your kids play. It's a small part of your life. Take advantage of it because in the blink of an eye, you go from holding that 5-year-old's hand on the ice for the first time 12 years ago to watching them skate their final lap as a senior in high school, and it's gone in a blink of an eye. So, with that said, let me get the life moves pretty fast because that is exclamatory. That's exactly what I just described, how fast life is moving. It's been a wild, amazing ride. I talked about my background. I grew up again, country living, farming, riding four-wheelers, hunting. Never in my wildest dreams could you pull me aside as a kid and say, "Hey, listen, you're gonna have 2 kids play hockey when you're an adult." Hockey to me as a child, hockey wasn't on TV. On a rare occasion, it was on TV. It existed in magazines for me and sports cards. That's it. And I knew who Wayne Gretzky was. That was it. I never imagined a world where I would be sitting in a rink on a weekend basis, or much less doing a podcast. I can't imagine explaining a podcast to my child self, but here we are. And then as I progressed with my son growing up, it went from dreading. I don't want to say dreading. That's kind of harsh. It went from, oh man, we got another game this weekend. 3 practices a week. That's a lot. It was that for me for a while. As my oldest got older and the years started dwindling down of him left playing hockey until he graduates, him driving himself to the rink, I took it more as a value to attend everything I can, to go to those practices if I could, to watch every game that I could, be it on video, be it in person, in the same way with the 12U. Take full advantage of it. Again, I talked about doing your own thing during practice, which is fine, but you're still with your kid in the car. You're still spending that quality time. Take advantage of every moment. Don't dread the practices. Don't dread the games because, again, in the blink of an eye, they're going to be gone. With that said, let's get to the tip of the week. I think as I've gotten older, I've slid somewhere between the hockey dad and the anti hockey dad. I think I'm in a comfortable midpoint. So, my tip to you is to pick your spot. And both extremes are bad. The hockey dad, overbearing, yelling, screaming, confrontational, not a good look. The dad who doesn't show up, who doesn't give a damn, who puts everything on mom or puts everything on a sibling or someone else, or shows up and just doesn't watch, doesn't care, doesn't hype up their kid, not good. In the middle, in the middle. That's your best spot. You care about the games, you're there for them, you're there to support them, be friendly with everybody, meet the parents, meet the kids, root them on, and enjoy it. Your kid's not gonna make it to the NHL. If they do, let me know. I would like to, know how many pucked up parents we have who have, kids in the NHL. Just enjoy every moment of hockey as a parent because again, I gotta quit saying it. It's sad. I'm sorry. I'm coming out of the kids' graduation last night, so I'm a little reminiscent is the way I would put it. So let's get to our outro. Again, short conversation this week. Thank you for indulging me, hearing me out, let me tell my story, eh, letting me give you my opinion of the hockey dad and how I see myself and how I think most parents should operate. Again, all my opinions. I'm sure you have different opinions. I'm sure you're like, Michael, you're wrong about that. I like screaming. You're wrong about that. My kid's going to make it to the NHL. That's you. That's you. More power to you. Uh, I raised my 2 hockey players the way I saw best, and I think we did a pretty bang up job considering it all started with a trip to the rink for ice skating and a training manual via Hockey for Dummies book. So, with that said, let me get to my outro. Angela should be back next week. Thank you again for indulging me this week. Let me do this on my own. Let's give one of the small businesses a shout out. If you're on Etsy, I know a lot of you are on Etsy. Check out Teaching is my side gig. All together, one word. Teaching is my side gig. We have a creator out there named Rick Dale. Rick takes old hockey sticks, which my God, I got a ton of those things. And Angela talked about this, and he makes picture frames and puck displays out of old hockey sticks, old used hockey sticks. So give teaching is my side gig a look on Etsy. He's also on Facebook, Rick Dale, Dale, and get yourself a, nice puck rack or a nice picture frame to put a photo of your favorite hockey dad in it. Thanks again for listening. Thanks for all the follows, like, listen, follow, and share. We have merchandise. Maybe we need to do some anti-hockey dad merchandise. Maybe I'll design something. Let's see what I can do with not AI. I hate it. Yeah, AI looks trashy, although I use it occasionally. We have merch tagged to the top of the page. Like, listen, follow, and share. Give us your comments. Give us your feedback. Give us your topics. If you have any suggestions for interviews or you want to be interviewed, let us know. We are answering DMs all the time on Facebook. And as I say it every week, remember, keep your stick on the ice. We are all in this together. Thank you.
Up before dawn, can't feel my face. Coffee spilling all over the place. Forgot the sticks, we're turning around.